Even if our physical bodies follow the idea of evolution, how did our minds, wisdom, and other intangible aspects of our existence develop? This has long been a question throughout human history. Nobody has any idea. As a result, the priest informs you that everything was created by God. In the eyes of Anunnaki followers, you are an extraterrestrial who is genetically designed to resemble their race. Theistic evolution is also a theory put out by certain scientists who have gone completely over the deep end. Some professional biologists have come out to inform you that evolution is a chaotic process that is made up of many tiny probability occurrences. Humans can't grow into what they are now if we go back in time and give ourselves 100 million opportunities. Is there a statement that you prefer? According to a researcher who researched the I Ching in the 1980s, it was possible to predict the future using the I Ching itself. Terence McKenna was the name of the researcher. He is well versed in the arts of shamanism, astrology, and ethnobotany. He claimed that symbiosis was the source of human evolution. A long time ago, fungus spores traveled through space and eventually landed on Earth. The sporotoxin entered the brain, destroying knowledge on Earth, where they had a symbiotic connection with apes. So this is how we got here. We are made up of soul, mind, and spirit. Since we were monkeys, we've evolved into people. Shamans all around the globe employ these fungal spores, which are derived from a type of mushroom. It is, in reality, a far more evolved and intellectual species. Despite the fact that the shaman's illness appears to be caused by mushroom poisoning, it's possible that he was able to speak with an advanced form of life embedded within his body and learned about the world of gods as a result. Let's take a deep breath and learn more about the lore around the shaman mushroom. When 23-year-old McKenna arrived in Nepal in 1969, he heard a story like this. According to the shaman, a zombie arrived in Yunnan more than 100 years ago, lurking in a deep mine shaft deep in the mountains. They were initially miners as well, but after being buried for hundreds or even thousands of years due to landslides, they became zombies fed on soil and metal. They are no longer human, despite the fact that their bodies have not decomposed, and their minds are still functioning. Miners will occasionally come upon these undead after entering the mine. The miners will make the zombies extremely pleased. He complained about being chilly and even begged the miners for smokes. The zombies will kneel on the ground after smoking and ask the miners to take them out. The miners claimed that we were risking our lives to mine for gold at the time. I can't go without something. Are you aware of the location of the gold mine? The miners will be guided by zombies, and they will undoubtedly discover several gold mines. The miners will tell the zombies that I'll go out first, then lay the basket down, and then pull you out when it's time to get out. When the miner reaches halfway with the zombie, he will cut the rope, causing the zombie to fall and die. When the mining manager learned of this, he was so compassionate that he summoned a zombie. The miners tried everything they could to stop him, but it was too late. The zombies' skins changed to blood as soon as they saw the sun, which was strange. Everyone was instructed to cover their mouths and noses and flee. Normal individuals will die as a result of the blood and stink. McKenna recognized right away after hearing the narrative that this was the fungus clue he was searching for. Those zombies are just living humans who haven't been buried in hundreds, if not thousands, of years and are still alive. They may have become zombies after ingesting a big amount of fungal mycelium in the mine by mistake. During his research, he discovered that certain shamans use mushroom mycelium to block nerves and convert people into zombies. In 1943, scientists found that fungi were interfering with nerves in the laboratory. At Sandoz's Switzerland labs in Switzerland, Albert Hofmann discovered that the extracted number was 25 after opening a 5-year-old container that had been sealed. The fungal extract is what you're looking at here. When Hofmann created it 5 years ago, he did so on his own. However, despite extensive testing, only this number 25 extract was shown to have no impact on animals and was consequently kept secret from the rest of the batch's extracts. Hofmann had a sudden dream in the last several days. They sang to him like they were trying to tell him something as a massive group of whales came toward him. He was still thinking about the whales when he woke up, like whales pointing him in the right direction. From the box, he pulled out the 5-year-old number 25 extract bottle. As soon as he lifted the lid, the whale erupted in his head, swirling towards him as if he had dropped into the depths of the ocean. After taking a few deep breaths and gradually regaining his composure, Hoffman saw that 2 hours had gone. The chemist's instinct informed him that the number 25 extract was the source of the whale's hallucinations. Why haven't animal trials shown any findings in the last 5 years? Because animals are unable to express their experiences with hallucinations. Hoffman's attention was piqued by the whales over the following few days. Hoffman took 250 micrograms of number 25 extract was consumed in one gulp before leaving work on the 3rd day. A dosage of 250 micrograms, or 1/10 of a grain of sand, is safe. Hoffman lost consciousness and entered another realm as soon as he realized this. He was overcome with drunkenness and joy, as well as incomprehensible fantasies and imagination, as he saw innumerable magnificent pictures crashing down on him like a cascade and swirling colorfully. In fact, he was riding his bike home at the time, and when he arrived home, he was laying on the sofa, hallucinating. He closed his eyes. A flash of strong sunshine struck his eyes. The joy went to terror, the dream into the abyss, and he was attacked. His mind erupted with information. Opening his eyes was like looking through a kaleidoscope of the globe. Shutting his eyes was like dreaming about journeying through heaven and hell. When Hoffman awoke the next day, everything was as it should have been. "You were dreadful yesterday, like a zombie," a coworker told him after he arrived at the laboratory. Hoffman figured out all the old traditions, including medieval witchcraft and St. Anthony's fire, in a split second. He dashed into his boss's office and informed him of all that had happened. With a sneer, his supervisor remarked, "How many micrograms are there? Is it possible that you've miscalculated the weight?" His boss then consumed 250 micrograms in a single mouthful. Hoffman's insight on St. Anthony's fire should be discussed before the boss wakes up. Approximately 20,000 to 30,000 people were affected by the same symptoms at the same time as the holy fire in Paris this year. Their twitches and erratic movements began with rashes. It then feels as though the limbs are being charred, and as they do, they turn black until eventually going necrotic. Although they were in excruciating pain, they could not see any blood oozing from their wounds, and their cries could be heard all throughout the city and field. After some time, the pain will subside, but the limbs will have been amputated. They would also feel as though they were being ripped apart by a large hand as they were attacked by agony. According to the Holy See, the only ones who could escape the holy fire were those who had faith in God's great will. Many people had come to the church to pray, yet the holy fire would still convert their supplications into cries of pain. In the holy hospital, the monks advise praying to Saint Anthony, who once vanquished Satan in the monastery, and who, they claim, is the only one who can help you triumph over the holy fire. They had painted the hospital's walls crimson, and the central altar was filled with animal corpses that the monks had dug out of the swamp. The monks were all kneeling before the altar, their black robes adorned with blue crosses. Weeping and pleading, medieval hospitals could only cure Ignis Sancti Antoni or St. Anthony's fire in this manner. During the Middle Ages, St. Anthony's fire engulfed practically all of Europe and lasted over 1,000 years. A St. Anthony's fire broke out in France even in 1951. It wasn't until Hoffman's time that scientists realized St. Anthony's fire was caused by fungal poisoning. Toxins produced by fungi cause hallucinations, zombie-like behavior, and even the death of humans. Rye ended up being the primary food source in Europe during the Middle Ages. A black ergot would grow once the rye was infected with a fungus. They were hard to locate once they had been incorporated with the wheat. But when it is ground into a powder and baked into bread, the poison is exposed. Hoffman's tale is back in focus. This ergot was the subject of their research 5 years ago, and it was from it that they isolated numerous fungi. It was formerly considered that the number 25 product was a failure, but after reading Hoffman's account, the employer has altered his opinion. From this number 25 chemical compound, the CIA went on to create an atomic bomb-grade weapon, TTT, to tell the truth. Once you've been abducted, you'll turn into a zombie who won't tell a lie. This fungal substance appears to be so nasty that it will only transform people into zombies and is unlikely to turn monkeys into humans. At the same time, we see the prospect of fungus altering nerves in this scenario. It just so happens that experts have been unable to explain why monkey brain capacity suddenly rose 1 million years ago. How can you become a smart human being? Then McKenna recounted such a human origin story. A forest gave way to grassland 1 million years ago. To forage, a group of woodland monkeys had to leave the treetops and travel to the grasslands. In this colony of monkeys, there is a male monkey king, yet on the grassland, even the monkey king has devolved into a weak chicken, serving as a grassland feast. They can only stay in their burrows during the day and come out at night to eat. If you want to be a mouse, you should live like one. When food is scarce, they consume the feces of huge animals. This species of monkey, at the very least, will go extinct shortly. A miracle did, however, occur. This troop of monkeys scooped up feces was chosen by spores from a fungus. The spores formed into mushrooms from the feces. It was eaten by the monkeys, and they instantly awoke. It turns out that the black monolith mentioned by Stanley Kubrick is excrement, and the tale behind it may differ slightly from what Kubrick claimed. The Monkey King was deposed by the awakened monkeys, who founded a shaman-centered tribe. The shaman in the group of monkeys who consumes the most mushrooms becomes a nomadic tribe that loves peace and appreciates nature and goes about hunting for mushrooms. This is what motivates people to go and travel the world. According to this notion, humans did not begin in Africa, but rather on a mushroom-friendly plateau, e.g. the Tibetan Plateau. The shaman then led a group of tribes on a journey through the world's grasslands, following a specific mushroom trail, even to Greenland in the Arctic and Tierra del Fuego province in the Antarctic, over the sea and through glaciers. This may also explain why shamans in Tierra del Fuego province, as far as the Antarctic, practice the same shamanism as shamans elsewhere on the planet. This shamanic world might have existed for hundreds of thousands of years, with several civilizations rising and falling. Our modern material civilization differs from shamanic civilization. They lack both the world's ruler and the male monkey monarch. They are interested in spirituality and spirits, as well as integrating with nature. Perhaps they will enter the spiritual world of symbiosis with mushrooms when they reach a certain level of development, and then progressively deteriorate. We are an exception to the emergence and collapse of a wave of civilizations. An ice age struck the world around 10,000 years ago, obstructing the mushroom's route with glaciers. Our forefathers were enslaved in areas like Gobigli, Zhangzhung Valley, Indus Valley, and others. We still believed in shamans and ghosts back then. The glaciers, on the other hand, began to wipe out the mushrooms. The shaman grew increasingly worthless, and the world's ruler began to grow again. Gobekli Tepe is the result of this procedure. Why is it that the older the object, the more wonderful it is? Because our forefathers are increasingly rejecting shamanism in favor of worshiping the world's monarch. Our forefathers abandoned nomadism and shamanism in favor of becoming farmers, inhabitants, and supporting aristocracy. Despite the fact that we perceive the city to be growing and civilization to be progressing, it appears that the mushrooms with whom we may be symbiotic will perceive us to have reverted to a group of pick-up-the-excrement monkeys, abandoning natural beliefs and returning to worshiping a male monkey king. The mushrooms did not compel us to return to the shamanic condition of civilization once the glacier melted. Let us instead continue to evolve in our preferred style till the end of time. However, some of us have a nagging sense that nature is beckoning us, and that the spiritual world is waiting for us. This is a different kind of fantasy narrative. Isn't McKenna's rendition of the human origin tale a stretch of the imagination? It's simply beyond my understanding. Everyone has their own point of view. If McKenna's idea is to be confirmed, another crucial factor must be the ability of mushroom spores to travel beyond interstellar space. Is this a true statement? A startling finding was discovered aboard the Mir space station in 1997 by astronaut David Wolf. He unlocked a seldom-used control panel, behind which a cloud of weightless condensate grew like a bowling ball in the air. Worst of all, this pool of stagnant water turned out to be sticky, with several tiny spots floating in it. Clearly, bacteria are thriving in this stagnant pool of water. David took a sample of these germs and returned them to the ground to cultivate. They turned out to be fungus and mushrooms. Where did the space station's fungus spores come from? Was it transported from Earth by astronauts? Or is it from outer space? This case has so far remained unsolved. Prior to this incident, scientists assumed that spores did not exist in space and that spores would not survive in space. However, the Mir space station was beset by a slew of unforeseen problems during the 1990s. Mir space station's spin window glass has been cracked by the fungal mycelium, and the space home seal has also been damaged by the fungus after the finding of fungal spores. Scientists have gathered 140 different types of fungus from the Mir space station by the time it was deactivated in 2001. Purebred mushroom spores are being kept in liquid nitrogen in vast mushroom farms, which is nearly as cold as absolute zero in space. Simultaneously, scientists discovered that the shells of some fungal spores absorb UV light. What is the purpose of this strange structure? Is it possible for fungus to photosynthesize as well as plants? Scientists were obviously taken aback by their findings following the investigation. This construction is capable of functioning as a solar sail. This assertion is currently being demonstrated, and no final decision has been reached. Future Martian cities, on the other hand, are expected to be 3D printed using fungal mycelium as basic material, according to NASA. Because if only one spore can adapt to the Martian environment, it can replicate indefinitely on Mars and alter the planet. Returning to McKenna's idea, perhaps the final wave of humanity has died out. We are who we are. We are not meant to pursue spirituality and spirits. This is the fungus that has already been placed symbiotically with us. We have more vital duties. Develop technology to fly off the Earth and disperse their spores to another planet, or go to the farthest reaches of the cosmos in search of a new mushroom and progress to the next level.